going on? Welcome in the Matt Bernier Show, DRF TV, live.drf.com, livestream.com, the Daily Racing Forms Twitter handle at DRF Inside Post, as well as the Daily Racing Forms Facebook page. My name is Matt Bernier. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. This is the recap edition. Going to be a rather tight one, simply because there's only really two giant races over this past weekend, and no disrespect to everything that happened down at Gulfstream Park. You'll see all that in this week's stakes montage. But the two Grade 1s for 2-year-olds out on the West Coast, those are the ones we'll dive into. The Grade 1 Los Alamitos Futurity, as well as the Grade 1 Starlet for 2-year-old fillies. You listen to this thing podcast like most of you do. YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com, as well as Spotify. If you're over on YouTube, click that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up. You'll get all the latest from DRF TV. You're over on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Write us a review, give us a positive rating. Always greatly appreciated. Let's dive right into it. 2-year-olds going a mile and a 16th at Los Alamitos Racecourse. The 5th race on Saturday, the Grade 1 Los Al Futurity, a field of 6 signed on. Bob Baffert, well represented. What else is new? He had 2 of the big chances in here. They ended up being the 2 post-time favorites, one of them being Improbable, who went off at odds of 1-5, the other being Mucho Gusto, the second choice, who went off at odds of 4-1. Mucho Gusto figured to showcase himself early with his speed. Improbable, the question was, how would Drayden Van Dyke get him out off of the inside, and how would he perform going 2 turns for the first time? We got a pretty emphatic answer, the stretch run of the Los Al Futurity.
In with a shot, it is wide open at the top of the stretch. Here comes Improbable to join the leaders. Improbable down the stand side, challenging stablemate Mucho Gusto, and he's taken over. Improbable to the outside of Mucho Gusto, who's trying to battle back to the inside, and the 2 Baffert trainees have pulled away from the others, but it's Improbable doing the best work. Improbable well on his way to remain undefeated, and now a Grade 1 winner. Fantastic in the Futurity. He won by almost 5.
Improbable gets the job done and remains perfect. He is 3 of 3 lifetime and now a Grade 1 winner, winning the Cash Call Futurity. He gets the job done over Mucho Gusto. It's a Baffert exacta. The 3rd place finisher, Extra Hope, he gets there at 15-1. Let's take a look at Improbable. He's a perfect 3 of 3 again. He is just under $270,000 in career earnings. Owned by Windstar Farm, LLC, China Horse Club, International Limited, and Starlight Racing. Trained by Bob Baffert, bred by St. George Farm, LLC, and G. Watts Humphrey Jr. in Kentucky. Ridden to victory by Drayden Van Dyke, and you can see the pedigree. He is by City Zip out of an AP Indy mare named Rare Event 96. Buyer speed figure for Improbable, winning the Futurity. Boy, there's really not a lot to knock about this. And you know, ho-hum, Baffert has another monster on his hands, or it looks like he could end up being a monster. I love the progression of this horse. I think the thing that is most fascinating to me, and this is my opinion, I'd be curious to know other people's thoughts. Again, you can fire away underneath the video player on YouTube or on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. I don't think we have seen the best of this horse, and I don't mean that from the obvious standpoint that he's a 2-year-old and he'll continue to grow and mature as he gets older. I still think he's quite green. I still think he's figuring some things out. He needs to be ridden. He needs to be asked. He did some things better this time around. You'll remember in the preview edition I went through and I went and did the whole deep dive with the replays and with my formulator notes and the whole 9. And my concern was twofold with a horse like this. He's never, or I shouldn't say never, he'd only run twice. He had never been the best out of the gate. He never broke super alertly. This time around on Saturday, broke very alertly, but was willing to come to hand down the front side the first time. And my question then became, in those first 2 starts, didn't seem like he really, I don't want to say he resented the kickback, but he was climbing a little bit, and it wasn't the smoothest motion with kickback. Well, same scenario here on Saturday. Early on, when he got that kickback, a little bit of a climbing action down the front side, but then you had a little bit of an issue with Savagery not taking the corner very well. He goes out, it forces Extra Hope incredibly wide, it forces Dueling just impossibly wide. We'll talk about those 2 again at the very end. And in turn, now all of a sudden, Improbable is able to move up, gets that nice sort of pocket position. Drayden Van Dyke at that point angles him off the rail, and the horse is pulling a little bit. He's a little bit keen. Drayden's got to give him the full Nelson, but then he relaxes very kindly down the backside, keeps him well off the rail. We know that's where you'd like to be at Los Alamitos. 5-6 paths off the rail. Rounding the far turn, Drayden needs to push on him just a little bit, but once he does, the engine starts cooking, and then the most impressive part, everyone has talked about it, the way that this horse extends down the lane, and the gallop out was sensational. This looks like he could be I said it kind of tongue-in-cheek, but there's some truth to it. Ho-hum, Baffert has another one that looks like he's going to be the best of the best. And this goes along with a horse like Mucho Gusto, who ran quite well. I mean, he ran a winning race in here. He was no match for his uncoupled stablemate, but look, he was 3 lengths clear of the rest of the field. And then Coliseum, a horse that Baffert has sitting in the barn waiting to go for Godolphin. So, it is what it is. And there's no real way to fix this problem, I don't believe anyway. But, it is one of those things where you look at it, and I said it in the preview. I'm picking Extra Hope. I don't have much interest in trying to beat Baffert at this point. I can say the same thing with Chad in the turf races. When they show up, I don't have a ton of interest in trying to beat them, just because more likely than not, they're going to get it done. So, it is what it is. These races, to me, don't become wagering affairs. They become spectacles, and they become more about the performances that you can see from the athletes out there, as opposed to potentially trying to make a buck or two. The good news is you still have 6, 7, 8 other races on the card, so it's not the end of the world. But it is something to keep an eye on going forward, because I don't know that this is necessarily a great thing that the best of the best continue to get the best of the best. But there's a reason that they keep getting the best of the best, because they are the best. Baffert did a great job with this horse, continues to improve. And like I said, I think the thing that is most intriguing about Improbable is that I think there is still plenty of room for improvement when he just continues to mature and continues to grow and figure things out. If he ever gets to the point where the kickback, where he becomes completely comfortable with that sort of thing, and I'm sure in time, the sort of, that little eagerness early on, once he does find a little bit of daylight, that'll go away in time. Once that does, boy, you're looking at what could be a monster. He finishes in 30-17. You look at Mucho Gusto, the runner-up. Now, granted, he was the one cutting out the fractions, 23-1, 47-1, 10-4 for 3/4. They stopped the clock in 41 flat. He comes home in 31-21, so an entire second slower. There's nothing to knock about this effort from Improbable. I thought he was visually very impressive, and he continues on this upward trajectory that looks like, let's call a spade a spade. I can't say that. I can't say let's call a spade a spade. To me, he has been more impressive visually, maybe so, than Game Winner. Now, Game Winner's a little bit more battle-tested, and we saw that, and I like that. I think if you can get a horse hardened, that goes a long way. But Improbable hasn't been tested because there's been no one even in his ballpark, with the exception of that career debut. And again, maybe you do want to give him a little bit more credit. I said it was just kind of a grindy, determined effort. Maybe that's actually more impressive than I thought it was at face value. All around, just a very exciting prospect going forward. He looks like he could be the real deal. Mucho Gusto, you have to feel a little bit bad for him. He went out there, he ran a winning race, just couldn't hold off his uncoupled stablemate. Very nice horse, gutsy, determined effort from him. Extra Hope, I picked this horse, but again, I wasn't betting on him. I threw a couple dollars on him at 15-1. It wasn't anything that I was going to go deep into because I didn't think necessarily he was a likely upsetter. I shouldn't say that. I didn't think there was a high probability of him defeating both Bafferts. But I did look at it and say, you know what? I thought this was a fine enough effort. He actually finished with some interest as well. Finished slightly faster than Mucho Gusto did. I think he's a nice horse. I think 2 turns is his game. He's plateaued a little bit as far as buyers are concerned. That's a little bit of an issue for me. But again, these are soon to be 3-year-olds. Wherever they show up next, I'd imagine they take a step forward. Brought up Savagery. He blew that turn going into the first, and that affected Extra Hope and Dueling. Extra Hope not nearly as much as Dueling, but it was enough for me to put Dueling in my horse watch on DRF.com because, going into that first turn, he must have been in the 15 path. And at that point, even if you didn't love his chances coming into this race, you have to just give him the benefit of the doubt and say when he gets placed in a more reasonable spot next time, this certainly compromised any chance of him running very, very well. King of Speed, back to the turf. I think he'll be greatly suited for that. I think that's going to be ultimately where his game is. But really, this story was about Baffert. Baffert continues to roll along. Improbable continues to roll along. To me, the most impressive 2-year-old performance that we have seen so far, and the speed figure would sort of back that up. A 96 Beyer speed figure for Improbable, winning the Grade 1 Los Alamitos Futurity. You have to look at him and say, if he's not the favorite right now, and I know we are months out, it's probably much too early, I think anyway, to really be talking Derby. But if you're looking for, if you are someone that's inclined to look at futures and you're looking at making a wager well in advance and trying to get a price, problem is you're not going to get any price on a horse like Improbable, but you have to acknowledge the fact that he is very likely one of the best 2-year-olds, soon to be 3-year-olds of his generation, and he might actually be the outright best. Improbable, Very, very impressive, winning the Low South Futurity with a 96 buyer. The Futurity was more of a procession in the end, but the Starlet just run 2 races later. That was a proper horse race. Let's take a look at the field. Again, only 6 of them were signed on. Post-time favorite was Chasing Yesterday, the little sister to Triple Crown winner American Pharoah. She really hadn't done a heck of a lot wrong in her career. The only stumbling block was out at Saratoga in her second lifetime start. They shipped her out to the East Coast. Otherwise, all she did was win races. So coming in here, she had some things that she needed to answer. 2 turns for the first time, facing some other legitimately solid runners in here. You had Mother, the other Baffert in this spot. You had Vibrance, who ran a nice solid third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies most recently. You had Oxy Lady coming in from New York on the heels of a mid-90s buyer speed figure. So you had a number of interesting horses in here if you were so inclined to take a shot against the post-time favorite. Ultimately, you had a 3-horse stretch duel, and here it is.
For the stretch, and the top 4 line up as they straighten away. Mother cuts the corner, sold it, trying to press on by Mother, and now Chasing Yesterday is hitting her best stride, and she's got clear sailing down the stand side. Anaya Alrob in with a huge upset chance. Mother all out. Anaya Alrob between fillies. Chasing Yesterday the stand side. Any one of these 3. Chasing Yesterday and Naya Alrob. These 2 going on. Chasing Yesterday, maybe a nose in front. Chasing Yesterday wins the Starlet over a...
Chasing Yesterday prevails at odds of 7-5 by a head over Anaya Alrob. That was a very impressive effort from her at 30-1. And then the third place finisher was the pace setter, Mother, the other Baffert in here. She finishes third at odds of 5-2. Let's take a look at the Starlet winner, Chasing Yesterday. She's 4 or 5 lifetime, over $324,000 in career earnings. Owned and bred by Summerwind Equine in Kentucky, trained by Bob Baffert, ridden to victory by Drayden Van Dyke. You can see the pedigree at the bottom of the horse card. She is by Tappet, out of that familiar name with the dam there. Her name is Little Princess Emma. She was by Yankee Gentleman, and Little Princess Emma is the mom of American Pharoah. Again, making Chasing Yesterday, for those of you that have been living under a rock, a half-sister to the Triple Crown champion American Pharoah. Chasing Yesterday only earned an 82 buyer, winning the Grade 1 Starlet, as did Anaya Alrob. And Mother, she earned an 81. So, you can look at this a few different ways. The fact that the race came back, let's say, it's not slow, but it's not fast. Let's just say it came back a fair number, 82. It's not going to blow anyone's socks off. I thought it was an impressive effort from all 3 of the top 3 finishers. Let's start off with Chasing Yesterday. The fact that she was as wide as she was every step of the way. First time going 2 turns at a track that she'd never run at before. Then she's able to overcome all that and dig in as gamely as she did. And she galloped out okay, not great, but not terrible. I thought this was an impressive effort. And the figure may be a little bit light, but to me, and Drayden Van Dyke said so in post-race comments, saying that she can move forward out of this. She'll be better for this race because she was tired afterwards. She ran a mile and an eighth in a mile and 16th race. Thought this was a promising effort. She finished in 30.91 as opposed to Anaya Alrob, who came home in 31.10, and Mother, who came home in 31.48. Anaya Alrob. This is a horse at 30-1, the second longest shot in a 6-horse field, ridden by Mike Smith. In between horses throughout, I like the fact that she was able to stay on the way that she did, and she was able to get up past the pace setter Mother. And okay, so she couldn't quite hold off Chasing Yesterday. This at least makes me think that there's some potential here. And I didn't love her chances coming into this. Thought she was just too slow, plain and simple. Look, if you look at it like this and say she is on an upward trajectory, sure, she's certainly a 3-year-old or soon-to-be 3-year-old filly that can have a say in some of these races should any of the other big girls move out of town. And I think the connections have to be thrilled. She's Grade 1 placed now, as is Mother. Now, Mother, in the grand scheme of things, I thought this was a fine effort considering she was the one cutting out the fractions, 23-1, 47 flat, 11 for 3/4, stopped the clock in 42-2. So considerably slower than what the boys did just 2 races earlier. But the fact that Mother was able to stick around and only lose by, less than half a length, when she was hounded throughout by Sold It, who ended up fading way back to finish 5th, I thought this was a good effort from Mother, one that she can move forward with, and she galloped out just as well as the top 2 did. So I thought all around, the top 3 all ran very well, gave credible efforts, and we'll find out where they all end up going forward from here. I'm sure there's a scenario where they end up running into one another before a race like the Kentucky Oaks, should that be the goal and ultimately where they all end up. And if they don't, maybe we'll see them all the first Friday in May at Churchill Downs. Oxy Lady, disappointing effort. You had to look at that number coming out of that race from Aqueduct in the fog, where she earned that 94 or 95. You had to look at it with side eye because no one had come out of that race with any sort of real effort. And then prior to that, none of them had even approached a number like that. She comes kind of back down to earth. 77 buyer. That seemed a little bit more reasonable than that mid-90 buyer that she earned in that race at Aqueduct. And I'm sure that race is probably going to get tweaked just a little bit going forward. Sold It. She was the one that was up there contesting the pace throughout. I don't want to hold this against her. She was the longest shot in the field, and she's just in over her head in a race like this. The big disappointment in the race, though, was Vibrance, second choice. At no point did she really look like she was going to threaten. She was down on the inside, and I recognize that outside's where you want to be at Los Alamitos, but guess what? Mother was down on the inside throughout, and she stayed on. What happened to Vibrance? Another, I hate to keep going back to this. You have to think of it and say, all of these horses were cranked up and ready to go for the Breeders' Cup. Vibrance, another one. And afterward, and I know there were people that pointed out where you had Marley's Freedom come back and win her race at Aqueduct in her next start. And there was one other filly or horse, I can't remember off the top of my head, that came back and won their next start. You're right. Those two instances, that's the case. Let's also take a look at the Marley's Freedom piece with a little bit of a grain of salt. She's probably just been the best horse in that division all year, and she wasn't facing much in the race in New York. This is another instance. Vibrance, Restless Rider. They come out of those races, out of that Breeders' Cup Juvenile and fillies. That was the goal. This race, tacked onto it, was not necessarily the goal. With the rest of these horses, this was the goal. Just something that you always have to keep in mind. And not just necessarily for an instance like this, but just going forward. Always think about what is the goal for connections. What are they looking for? You have to think about that with prep races as well. If you're looking at a race like, I'm making it up, the Jim Dandy, well, the Jim Dandy is all well and good if you were to win that. Everyone likes to win races at Saratoga. But the goal coming out of the Jim Dandy is to be ready to peak for the Travers. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies was the goal for Vibrance. The Starlet was the afterthought. The goal for Restless Rider was the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. The Pocahontas, or whatever that race was for the fillies at Churchill Downs, that was sort of the afterthought. And you figure you can just get by on talent alone. Sometimes when the lemon gets squeezed too dry, there's not enough there for these big races. And again, there are some decent horses that you're going against, particularly in a race like this where you're going to have to deal with Baffer, a two-headed monster. At the end of the day, chasing yesterday, Pharaoh's little sister does him proud, does the family proud. She gets the job done. She's a grade 1 winner now, going 2 turns. 82 buyer speed figure winning this year's Starlet. What else is new? Baffert sweeps the grade 1 races at Los Alamitos. We're going to throw it into this week's stakes montage. You have all the action from Gulfstream Park. You're going to have a couple other big races. You're going to have racing from Woodbine as well as Aqueduct. So without further ado, let's throw it into that. This week's stakes montage.
Outside, D-Magician's weakening, Inclusive down the center and getting a rails run, Global Access to Winston Lib, but Inclusive sprouting wings down the outside. Inclusive coming thick and fast. It's Sir Winston and Inclusive on the outside. Inclusive wearing down Sir Winston gradually. Sir Winston fights enough, and that is enough to win it. Sir Winston wins. Inclusive petered out on that run.
Trying to hang tough at the rail, and in between them, Sower is fully extended. Here's Vertical Oak emerging on the outside of Yorkie Poo Princess. There's an 1/8 of a mile to go, and Vertical Oak is strutting her stuff now as she gets to the front. Sower and Yorkie Poo Princess will battle it out for second as Vertical Oak's class comes through in the garland of roses. Handridden late by Eric Consell to score over Yorkie.
Jay puts a neck in front. Iva cuts the corner and battles on second. Well clear of the others with an 1/8 of a mile to go. Miguel Vasquez shakes up Bye Jay, asked to finish the job, and now moves to a 2-length lead. Iva's clearly second. The battle's on for third. Horologist gets third, but the house party to Bye Jay for Monarch Stables by 2 in the end. Iva was second. Diane leads by 2. Classic Fit on the stand side tries to spring an upset from between horses and Bella Chow. 1/8 of a mile to go. Here's Classic Fit under big-time pressure from Jimenez, rallying at the leader. Classic Fit on the outside. Sweet Diane toward the rail, but at 13-1, Classic Fit has powered to the front. Classic Fit wins the Hut Hut. Second is Sweet Nation, and they're at the top of the stretch. It's Zenden who comes away with the narrow lead, but Jackson is up for a fight, and he's battling right back. Combination down the stand side, third with less than an eighth to go. Zenden for a clear advantage. Jackson game second best at this point, and that's where he'll finish as Zenden puts him away. It's Zenden for Barboza and Jaramillo to win by a length and a half. Second is Jackson, third is Combination, and quarters. And 1:11 and 3, they're at the top of the stretch. Garter and Ty tips out 3 wide to challenge the top pair. In between horses, Super Jackpot toward the rail. Maddie's last dance. Super Jackpot now begins to feel the strain and digs in gamely on the outside, and Garter and Ty trying to get by. Garter and Ty, Super Jackpot. Here's the wire. Garter and Ty. At the top of the stretch, Life Mission on the inside, bracing for the challenge of Henley's Joy, who's up alongside now, and Henley's Joy powers to the front. Life Mission is back to second. Louder Than Bombs is now third. Then Shazir and Mr. Wrench It. But Henley's Joy finishes up full of run, and he's the pulpit winner easy by 4 or 5. Second, Life Mission. Third, Louder Than Bombs. For home. 3/4, 1:12 and 1, and off the turn, it's still a kick from Fortunate Girl. Fortunate Girl has the lead by 2.5. A Bit Special down the center. A Bit Special trying to get to Fortunate Girl. Fortunate Girl, A Bit Special trying to get her on the money. This is going to get close. A Bit Special is in time. A Bit Special off the turn with the lead. Magno's 40-1 with a chance. Paco getting some out of Big Boris 1 between horses with an eighth of a mile now to go. It's Big Boris 1 who has the lead. Magno on the outside, a late run from Don William R down the stand side. 16th to go. Big Boris 1, Magno on the outside. Big Boris 1 and Magno. Here's the line. Big Boris 1. Big Boris 1 gets the
Rumble has to contend with a ferocious Melmich. Melmich on the outside. Melmich and Pumpkin Rumble lay it down a furlong to run, and then neck and neck. Melmich on the outside. Pumpkin Rumble the rail, and Pumpkin Rumble fights tooth and nail to get back in front. And Pumpkin Rumble in the valedictory, a fantastic winner. Notice me, Adelina going to the front. Adelina hits the lead. Western Curl is all out in second on the outside, coming gradually. Adelina trying to hang on here. Western Curl, and now Lady Azalea. Hasta la vista, baby. Hasta la vista, baby, coming. Adelina, only a length. Hasta la vista, baby, flying out the ground as they come to the wire, but Adelina's won it. From Hasta La Vista,
there you have
baby.
the stakes montage, and let's roll right into the weekend's best as far as Beyer speed figure performances are concerned. We'll take them right in order. The 2-year-old males on dirt. Improbable, he earns the 96, winning the Los Al Futurity. 2-year-old fillies on dirt. Bye Bye Jay, an 84 in the house party at Gulfstream. So a little bit surprising that Chasing Yesterday and Anaya Al Rab don't get that top honor, but hey, numbers are the numbers. Bye Bye Jay, an 84. 2-year-old males on turf. Henley's Joy, an 85 in the pulpit at Gulfstream Park. 2-year-old fillies on grass. We have a tie. A Bit Special and Fortunate Girl. 75 buyers, both in the wait a while at Gulfstream. The 3-year-old males on dirt. Longdon and Coil Me Home. 88 buyers. 1 in a non-winners of 1 other than at Tampa. Another in a race at Los Alamitos. 3-year-old fillies on dirt. Sower, 90 in the Garland of Roses at Aqueduct. Wasn't good enough to get the job done, but the fastest as far as 3-year-old fillies on dirt are concerned for the weekend. 3-year-old males on turf. Fabrication, a 59 buyer in a claiming race at Turf Paradise. You know, occasionally when some of the divisions are a little bit lean for the week, a 59 can sneak in there. So, as is the case with the 3-year-old males on grass. 3-year-old fillies on turf, at least as this is being recorded. Things can certainly change in time, but it is what it is. 3-year-old fillies on grass. Glossy, a 68 in a non-winners of 1 other than at the Big A. Older males, Locky, 95 in a stakes race down at Laurel Park. Older fillies and mares on dirt. Vertical Oak, 95, winning the Garland of Roses at Aqueduct. Older males on grass. O. Newman, a 66 in a claiming event at Turf Paradise. And the older fillies and mares on grass, you have Enthusiastic Al with a 68 buyer and non-winners of 1 other than at Aqueduct. There you have it. The weekend's best as far as Beyer speed figure performances are concerned on the Matt Bernier Show. Let's give you a little bit of what's on tap for this week. As far as DRF TV is concerned, you're going to have the preview edition of the Matt Bernier Show coming up here in a few days. You're going to have the latest edition of Out of the Gate. You will have DRF Bets Races of the Day. You will not have any Weekend Warrior. I'm filling in for Watch for the next 2 weeks, and then somebody else will fill in for the final week. But those videos will be gone until we get back for 2019. You'll have some DRF formulator angles. You'll have pedigree reports. You'll have everything you want. DRF Players Podcast. You name it, you got it. head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Forms YouTube channel. For those of you watching this live, thank you for doing so. Live.drf.com, livestream.com, Daily Racing Forms Twitter handle @DRF Inside Post, as well as the Daily Racing Forms Facebook page. If you listen to this in podcasts like most of you do, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com, as well as Spotify. If you're over on YouTube, click the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up. If you're over on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, however you get your podcasts, write us a review, give us a positive rating. It's always greatly appreciated. Questions, comments, concerns, beneath the video player on YouTube or on Twitter to me, @Bernier_Matt. It's going to wrap this thing up. Enjoy the rest of your week until I come back with the Friday edition, the preview edition, I should say. It'll usually be uploaded sometime Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, but it will be live.drf.com on Friday at noon. We'll go over some race coming up for this weekend. We'll also give you the NFL Week 15, right? 15 trifecta. Another winning weekend for us last weekend. Two and ones. Now I believe the total for the year is 27-15. So we'll keep this thing rolling along. I think we've come pretty darn close to locking in a profit, but we want to continue on. Just keep churning. It is what it is. Until I come back for the preview edition, until you come back and listen. Best of luck, however you play, whatever you play, wherever you play. This has been the Matt Bernier Show.